This week we will, Amir Hashem, read Parshas Shoftim, and if the weather is right, we will do Kiddush Levana on Motzei Shabbos. As part of Kiddush Levana, one of the most interesting phrases is we say, David Melech Yisrael Chai V'Kayim. We mentioned David HaMelech, which was a code word for mentioning that Rosh Chodesh was coming. The question is, why did they pick this particular code? What does David HaMelech have to do with Rosh Chodesh? So Chazal tell us that the Davidic line, that Malchus based David was Nimshala L'Levana, is somehow compared to the moon. How is that? Some explain that there were a certain number of generations, that the generations from early years go through David being the 14th, Shlomo being the 15th, that represents the full moon, and then there's a decline of Malchus based David. But I think there's something much deeper to the connection between David HaMelech and the moon. In this week's Parsha, we have the mitzvah of appointing a king. And many ask, why, if there's a mitzvah to appoint a king, did the Navi Shmuel get so upset when the Jews actually ask for a king in the book of Shmuel? The answer, perhaps, is that they asked for a king kechol hagoyim. They asked for what a typical king is in the world, in the non-Jewish world. But a Jewish king is not exactly the same and doesn't play the same role as a king in the world. What is the role of a Jewish king? It's interesting that Chazal tell us in the Gemara in Sota that Yehuda, David's ancestor, became the one through whom the kingship was going to come because he was Mekadesh Shem Shamayim B'Farhesia. He publicly sanctified the name of Hashem when he admitted his sin with Tamar. What does that have to do, sanctifying the name of Hashem, admitting a sin? What does that have to do with being a king? The Shem Shmuel explains that the role of the Jewish king is not just to bring the people together, not just to run the country, but to reveal the presence of Hashem, to bring people closer to Hashem, to reveal the kavod Hashem. Someone who makes a Kiddush Hashem is the right person from whose descendants should come the kings. But he doesn't just make a Kiddush Hashem. He makes a Kiddush Hashem by admitting that he's wrong. What is the catch-22 of being a king? On the one hand, your role is to let people see the Ribbono Shel Olam. But if you are too powerful yourself, if you have too much of an ego yourself, then you actually block their view of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. How can the king, on the one hand, be a way of people relating to Hashem? Ooh, there's a king there. Maybe Hashem is a king. But how does he not get in the way? How does he not become the total focus? How do they see through him to see the Ribbono Shel Olam? It's a particular kind of anav, a modest person, a modest leader who can on the one hand inspire and on the other hand not get in the way, who can stand up in front of the people in a way that they could see right through him to the Ribbono Shel Olam. David HaMelech and his descendants are Nimshala L'Levana. Why is David HaMelech compared to the moon? Because the moon has no light of its own. The purpose of the moon is to simply reflect a greater light, that of the sun. David was the prototypical king because he was able to be a platform, a mirror almost, through which people could see HaKadosh Baruch Hu. It's so important that leaders maintain a healthy sense of modesty, understanding who they are, understanding their role. But if they aren't humble, then they become the focus, instead of what a leader's supposed to do, to be compared to the moon, to be something that reflects the light of Hashem in a way that everyone can see. Have a good Shabbos.